Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Columbia University, the School of Professional Studies, and our new Masters in Wealth Management program, it is an honor to welcome you all this, our 7th speaker series event, where from time to time, we invite industry practitioners and thought leaders to come and share with us their thoughts on the fast evolving wealth management industry. My name is Philip Hecker. I am a member of the Wealth Management Advisory Council, and I'll be your moderator today. In terms of housekeeping, this webinar is being recorded, and you can find a replay soon on the Columbia Wealth Management website. With respect to our topic today, I hope we can all concur that new client acquisition is a mega topic for all wealth management firms and advisors, because new clients represent in the long term, the lifeblood of any practice. Before I introduce our wonderful panel, who will really bring this topic to life, allow me a few short words on our Masters in Wealth Management program, and let me give you a feel for the arc of today's conversation. Columbia University's new Masters in Wealth Management is a 16-month part-time online program that prepares experienced and aspiring wealth management professionals to tackle the many disruptive trends affecting our beautiful wealth management industry. It is the only Masters in Wealth Management currently offered by an Ivy League institution, and it equips our students with all educational requirements to attain the CFP designation. Should you want to learn more, simply type Columbia University and wealth management into a web browser of your choice. And please note that applications are currently open starting for the cohort in fall of 2023. With respect to the arc of today's conversation, we'll start with a panel discussion, and then we open it up for Q&A. So please, folks, as we go along, type your questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screens, and I'll be curating them to our great panelists. And with that, it is my privilege and great pleasure to introduce our 4 panelists for today's conversation. We are joined today by 2 leading advisors that will share perspectives from the front lines. Welcome to Adriana Stajiuk from Aaron Wealth Management and Randy DePel from Milestone Money Advisors, both coincidentally dialing in from Chicago. We are also joined by 2 wonderful thought leaders, namely best-selling sales coach Bill Cates, welcome Bill, and the one and only Samantha Russell, digital marketing maven from FMG. Welcome to all of you. Let's dive right in. Perhaps if each of you takes a minute to introduce yourself briefly and your firm, that will be helpful in understanding the vantage point that you bring to today's conversation. In terms of flow, as previously discussed, let's keep it simple. Let's start with our advisor panelists, Randy, Adriana, and then Bill and Samantha. Please bring it home. Randy, over to you.
Thanks, Philip. I'm Randy DePel. I own and operate an independent fee-only wealth advisor here in Chicago called Milestone Money. We specialize in retirement management, which is a little nuanced as opposed to being a retirement planning organization. But we've spent a lot of time here really focusing on building client relationships, and a lot of our focus is around referrals and going kind of online with clients, if you will, to offline. So we develop offline the relationships, and that's a lot of what we do with our practice here in building new clients.
Wonderful to hear. Some great teasers already. Looking forward to contributions. Adriana, over to you.
Hi, my name is Adriana Stajiuk. I'm an investment advisor and managing director at an independent investment advisory firm, also based in Chicago, called Aaron Wealth Advisors. I've been working in the wealth management industry for almost 10 years now, and took my practice to the independent space about 2.5 years ago from a large wealth management institution. My practice is focused on helping clients and their families really establish plans and define their legacies in the ultra high net worth space. We provide a full service of wealth management solutions and really try to position ourselves as an advocate on behalf of the clients and establishing and simplifying their financial lives.
Great to have you as well. With that, over to our sage sales coach and our marketing maven, Bill. Sam, over to you.
Thank you. In case you misheard, Philip, it's Bill Cates with a C, not Bill Gates. Bill Gates has a lot of money. I'm going to help you make more money by serving more people with the important work you do. I've been at this for 30 years, helping advisors grow their business through referrals, through personal introductions, through more effective messaging, and a lot of other areas around that. Under the umbrella of relationship marketing, what is the warmest approach to solving the problem and finding new people is my emphasis. I've written a bunch of books. I have an academy, and you can see my websites under my name, referralcoach.com. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. It should be a lot of fun and hopefully valuable.
Likewise, Bill. Bill Cates, Bill Gates, you're both smart, brilliant people in my book. Sam, bring us home.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be part of this esteemed panel. I'm Samantha Russell. My current title is Chief Evangelist at FMG. I have been helping advisors with marketing for about the last 8 years, just about to celebrate the 8-year anniversary of being in this space. And before this role, my husband and I built a company, 20 over 10, where we specialized in software for advisors to help them with their website and lead generation. And that business was acquired by FMG, the chief evangelist for in 2020. A lot of the strategies that I help the firms I work with execute are the same ones that we use to build our own company, from no customers to 5,000 customers in just a few short years. So I like to do a lot of, do it in public, the strategies that I like to try out and make sure they work before, I tell anybody of other trends that they should maybe be paying attention to. And that is one of the things with digital marketing is people can get overwhelmed a lot of times by, should I, use this video strategy? Should I have a YouTube channel? Should I be on this social media platform? And so I really try to help people cut through the noise and focus on what makes their firm marketable in the first place before focusing on the tactics.
Excellent. Looking forward to this conversation, given the multiple vantage point that this panel brings to the table. Before we dive into the meat, a quick speed round. When you think about the topic of new client acquisition, are there any books or podcast or website tips you would want to share with our audience where they can educate themselves and learn more? What comes to your mind in terms of books, podcasts, or websites? Speed round. Randy first.
I'll go with the book. It's called The Wealthy Client Pipeline, and it's by Russ Allen Prince and John J. Bowen Jr. They both take a pretty interesting approach here in helping you kind of think about not only how to connect with people, but also how to leverage your contacts and specifically your centers of influence to develop a more robust pipeline of clientele.
Excellent. Adriana?
Yeah, my book, the book that I'd recommend is not necessarily geared towards new business development, but just was a really foundational piece that when I first started in this industry over 10 years ago, really helped me understand the markets and the direction everything was heading. And the book is called Winning the Loser's Game by Charles D. Ellis. Was really transformational in terms of how I viewed markets and what was going on. So definitely recommend.
I have to chuckle here. Charlie Ellis was the first Speaker Series event guest for this very program. So if you want to revisit a wonderful discussion with him from roughly 2 years ago, please check out our website under the events section. You can find the past recordings. Bill, Samantha, bring us home. Bill, Samantha, bring us home with your great tips, please.
Sure, I'm resisting my urge to self-promote my book, so I won't. Uh, The Psychology of Money, I loved reading that. Helped me with my own psychology, plus the people we encounter, and that's a big part of your job, as you know, being a psychologist for your clients. And then an older book, it's called Questions Great Financial Advisors Ask by David Richman and Alan Parise. Great questions, financial. I got it right here. Questions Great Financial Advisors Ask. It's a great book. Highly recommend it.
So one of the books that I think has been game changing for me is actually not a book specific to our space or marketing or client acquisition, but it's called How to Talk So Kids Will Listen, and Listen So Kids Will Talk. But I actually think that that book has taught me more about just interpersonal communication in general. And it really breaks it down to super easy strategies that work with kids, spouses, partners, business partners, anyone. So that is a really quick and easy read. I think it should be on everyone's bookshelf. For more of a marketing, branding, personal story, there's a book called Alchemy by Rory Sutherland, and he was one of the founders of Ogilvy, the famed marketing and branding firm. It's a really quick, easy read, but there's so many great stories in it that help you get into the psychology of how we as consumers decide where to give our attention. So Alchemy by Rory Sutherland.
Some excellent tips already. Thank you all for sharing that. And with that, let's roll up our sleeves and dive into the meaty topic of new client acquisition. Let's perhaps start in round one with your reflections on how important is new client acquisition for your practice, and what are the approaches you're taking to driving new client acquisition. Let's start at that high level, if you all don't mind. As always, Randy first. Take us off.
No, thanks, Phil. Yeah, I think it's some of it really is dependent upon the type of firm that you're working for or running. If you're trying to continuously add clients, and then it is obviously the number one thing that you do all day long. On the flip side, if you're looking to build and kind of fill your bus full of the right clients, that becomes a little different strategy. One of the things that I really spend my time doing now is I really have a Focus 50 list. And these are people that I've come to know over time, that I continuously reach out to. They may be happy somewhere else, or maybe they're do-it-yourselfers, but I know a little bit more about them than somebody who just gives me their email and says, yeah, I like your download here. And so some of those things, it's a nurturing process, and it's a long-term game. And that's why I think for a lot of advisors, they struggle sometimes, because it is a long-term game. It's a very emotional decision to hire a financial advisor and work with somebody in this capacity. So it just takes a little bit more effort on your part to really focus in on how to develop these relationships, how to build some trust, and ultimately win clientele. So I spend a lot of time working and trying to learn about, what it is these prospects do, who might they work with, who does your taxes, who's done your estate plan, and say, oh, I happen to have worked with this firm before. They represent 3 or 4 other clients. Maybe we could have a get together over coffee or something. So I take maybe a non-traditional approach in that way, and really try to work the COI angle to develop the new client process.
Thank you for approaching and framing it that way. I have to tell you that you point out the client perspective, that you point out that it's not just a rational choice, but also an emotional choice of who to work with. I'm sure that theme will pop up throughout today's conversation. Adriana, please build on it.
Yeah, besides the obvious that, you're running a business and you need to grow your business to be a going concern. Without new clients, you're not replacing lost clients, not necessarily because they're unhappy or they're leaving, but because life happens, and clients spend their assets. Things always change. So just like any business, you need to have a continuous flow of new business. And then, something that's really key in, developing a network is creating a perception of value in your networking. So as an advisor, your job is to make relationships with a diverse set of talented people that surround clients that you are working with or you would like to work with. And you need to create deeper relationships with those folks, but also first start with creating a perception of value. And that means holding yourself out, that you are in the right circles, you have the right clients, you're able to make referrals to them. And then in that respect, they are then incentivized to view you as somebody that's a valuable connection to them. So that's a really key part of creating a network with centers of influence that would surround your clients. And then, something I always is not always fun, but as a former athlete, I really enjoy the cold outreach, the challenge of getting a meeting with somebody that, you've always wanted to meet, or, tell a little bit about your firm. So that competitive edge in me really enjoys the cold calling and the cold outreach, which can sometimes be scary, but also a lot of fun.
If I may, 2 reflections as I listened to your opening salvo, Adriana. Number 1, appreciate you pointing out that inherently, if your book doesn't grow, it's shrinking due to decumulation, spend down, trust splintering, and so on. It's natural that your book atrophies if you don't replenish. So in many ways, if you don't grow, you're dying. That old adage holds true in our wealth management industry. And the second quick one that I was intrigued by is the thrill of the hunt. My words, not yours. That aspect of the game, I'm sure we'll get into a bit more in the future discussions as well. Bill and Samantha, as you listen to those frontline advisor perspectives, what are your thoughts given your vantage points?
Sure. First of all, I have an adage that I often share when I speak to groups, and that is cold calling is God's punishment for failure to get enough referrals. And Adriana maybe wouldn't agree with that because she likes the cold call. She's one of the rare folks that do. My perspective comes from, let's build our business and let's acquire clients in a way that clients want to meet us. Let's take the path of least resistance, not the path of least resistance for us in terms of what always feels most comfortable, but the path of least resistance for our prospects and clients, which is meeting us through someone, a recommendation from someone they already trust. So Schwab did a study a while ago that I'm going to get the percentages off slightly, but it's 84% of people who hired their advisor did so through a recommendation from a friend, a colleague, another trusted advisor like an accountant, an attorney, and 16% did it from other methodologies, social media, seminars, and things like that. So those things, in my book, at least, tend to work by default. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do those things. You should, because it's all the mix is very important. And let's make the prime motivator to meet new folks how they want to meet us. So that's why I talk about the referral and the introduction. Yeah, there's so much I could talk about, but let me just share one more thought here, and I'll let Samantha go. Is when you're with a prospect, a client, a center of influence, or anyone has the ability to connect you with someone else, use the word introductions, not referrals. That has some people have a negative connotation around that. And the old referred lead, call George, use my name, just doesn't work anymore because George doesn't pick up his phone. He doesn't know who you are. He doesn't know why their friend's giving their name out. So we're not really done until we get connected. We get the actual introduction. So let's use the word that represents what we really want, not a referral, but an introduction. More to come on all of that. Thanks.
Bill, awesome, and appreciate you pointing out the power of semantics. Referral versus introduction. It's not just semantics because it conditions our own mindset,
Correct.
how we approach the topic, and there's a lot of power in that. Sam,
Correct.
if you don't mind, bring us home.
Sure. I love what everyone has said. One of the things I often like to think about is with the firms that I work with, a lot of them have grown through referrals. And when they come looking for help with marketing, it's because they maybe feel like the referral process hasn't been as fast as they want. And they want a little bit more control over the speed at which they're getting those warm introductions. I like that word, as Bill said. And so what I like to think of is putting yourself in the mind of your client, right? There's really only, in my opinion, there's a few instances where they're going to all of a sudden think, oh, I should refer this person. If you create a moment where they have this experience where it's so outside the bounds of what they would expect, you exceed their expectations to the point where they want to talk about it, right? So just yesterday, an advisor I work with, one of his clients tweeted about what a great experience he had because going through some of the paperwork, he realized he was doing something that was leaving so much money on the table. He wasn't using a high interest savings account. And when they did the math over transferring some funds, how much money he was going to now make just in the next year alone, it was so shocking to him. He wanted to tweet about it. This is like a young tech executive in Silicon Valley. That's a moment where, the person has a great experience. They want to talk about it. But the rest of the time, usually you go and you meet with any service provider, whether it's like if somebody comes to your house and is a contractor, very rarely do you go to Facebook or Twitter and just praise them publicly without them first asking you in some way. And so when I think about client acquisition, I think about how do we create those moments where we can go over the top and make people want to talk about us, A, but B, how do we make it really easy for them to do that? And so that's where you can be more proactive. You can create something that is so great they want to share it with their network, right? Maybe it's some sort of, I had somebody I worked with when the PPP loans were causing a lot of business owners stress, like how do I get my hands on this money? They created a quick document that outlined some of the things that the people they worked with should know. And then they emailed it to their clients and said, share this with your business owner friends, right? And people shared it because it was so helpful and so valuable. So that's really where I like to think about that intersection of how do we create those moments where people want to talk about us, but then make it easy for them to want to share in a really impactful way. And another thing, I know we don't have time to get into that, maybe all of it today, is Google reviews. And reviews are a great way where you can collect that testimonial or that review once and have it go to work for you multiple times because it's living in a public place.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. And in many ways, I could concur. Oftentimes, the best marketing advisors can do is serve their existing clients really, really, really well. Great things will flow from that, leading to the introductions that Bill mentioned. Thank you all for that first round. Let's build on that by going a little bit deeper. If you don't mind building on what you previously stated, what are some best practices? What are some tangible tips, actual to-dos, actual processes, or actual resources folks can use to drive their new client acquisition? Randy, as always, take us off.
Thanks, Philip. And I think part of that is really about trying to have that process that we've talked about already in a very direct approach so that you can kind of find your tribe. You have to be able to, for me personally, I like to think about bringing in more people that are like me. So I even go on and say, hey, we're going to work together really well. If you like music and if you like travel and a good glass of wine, we're probably going to get along just fine. And so having those warm introductions over situations and social situations where you meet somebody and someone asks you that question, so what do you do? Not just to say, hey, I'm a financial advisor, but really kind of say, well, I help people kind of sort out their retirement problems and help them live worry-free retirement. And I can tell you more about that. But at the end of the day, what's on your mind and kind of what's your situation? So trying to understand where that client is on their journey at the beginning of retirement or towards the end of it or whatever it might be, and then trying to find a few things to resonate with them. I think those things, anytime you can find common ground and help build trust quickly, that helps create more engaged prospects and obviously leads to quicker closing and more business.
Randy, I have to ask you, you in particular seem to have a niche in terms of client needs that you're ideally situated to serve. Can you double click real quick on your niche thinking, the benefits of that in your mind?
That's something that's evolved for me over a number of years. I've just recently kind of retransitioned and rebranded this business to focus specifically on the retirement space. As my clients and as well as myself, I've been around in the business for this is my 23rd year, and I've been in financial services now for 32 years. But a lot more of my clients are starting to ask these questions, and it started about when the pandemic set in. It really kind of brought into focus. There are these different phases that people go through in retirement, kind of the years leading up to it, where you've got lots of energy, and then kind of while you're living in it, and then ultimately the third phase where you're not going so well. You're starting to wind things down and thinking about legacy and maybe some things that aren't easy to talk about. But I just saw it as an opportunity to really start focusing in on those parts of the market and really being able to address pain points for people and make them aware of things that maybe they didn't think of. And that's how you and I actually met, Philip, is having some shared experience and ideas around people need more information and they need more help. So that's how I get to my niche.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Adriana, from your vantage point, best practices, tips, perhaps including the cold calling that you want to share.
Yeah, just kind of building off something that Randy said, talking about his personal interests and, always sort of be thinking during social situations is, just sort of be yourself. And also, keeping in mind that you're always prospecting, in a way, not in a predatory way, but in a this is my life. These are the things I enjoy doing, and you never know who you might meet when, you're taking the bus to work, or, at a wine tasting. And I got a tip a while back from a coworker who said he always wears logos when he leaves the house, because they're often discussion points. So if I'm wearing a baseball hat, it would be the logo of my alma mater or a favorite winery that I've visited. And those are often kind of great talking points and will spark a conversation with folks that you meet. And then within the cold calling space, I think just also totally focusing on the prospect and on the prospective client, and listening to what their current situation is, what they might be looking for. Why did they pick the phone up? Why did they take the meeting? And truly just having a genuine curiosity for who they are, and what really is important to them.
Excellent. Bill, as we transition to you, I couldn't help but notice your active listening and your nodding when our advisor colleagues shared their perspectives. From your vantage point, you work with and see a lot of successful practices. What are additional elements you would want to add?
And we have a few hours. So first of all, I want to piggyback on what Randy said. He when people ask what does he do, he gives a statement. Doesn't necessarily lead with "I'm a financial advisor," because people have preconceived notions about what that is, which not always positive. He talks about the problems he solves, and then he asks a question. Some people teach just ask the question, but actually that's a little offensive to the person who just asked you the question. So answer their question and then find a way. What does that mean to you? How does that show up for you, or whatever? So lots of different ways to do that. So I just want to piggyback on what Randy said. First of all, be crystal clear on who you're trying to attract. Now, when you first get started in this business, if they fog a mirror, meaning they're breathing, you'll probably talk to them. And maybe that's fine because you need practice and anybody could be helped in some form or another, right? But eventually, you're going to want to refine that. And it's something that usually needs to be revisited from time to time, and usually with your team can help. Related to that is having a clear target market. Now, there's a difference between a category and a target market. People that are close to retirement, people that are in accumulating stage, whatever that may be, that's a category. It's not a market because there is no gathering of those people. Contrary to a lot of people, what they think, AARP is not an association of retired people. It's a marketing company. So A target market, on the other hand, they're a well-defined group and you know where they congregate in person or digitally, virtually. And typically it's owners of businesses in a specific industry. It could be employees within a large company where you get to know their world in ways. Others, it could be folks that work for a university, athletes. There's a lot of different types of markets. And so, it's never too soon to start that, by the way. It's never too soon to start looking at a target market. You may not want to put all your eggs in one basket right away. You want to make sure it really is indeed a viable market. And there are a lot of criteria that go into that we could talk about later if we have time. But eventually, then you'll see, yes, this does work. And you can stake your whole career. I can't tell you the number of people I've interviewed for my podcast who are doing that and doing it well. And then the final thing, very tactical, promoting introductions. We can talk about asking later, but the promoting has its place. I've been teaching something for a long time. It's a title of one of my books. Don't keep me a secret. Someone says, hey, this is great. We appreciate what you're doing. Great. Please don't keep this important work a secret, or don't keep me a secret, or any version thereof. It's a fun thing. Doesn't fit everybody. Another one is never too busy to see if I can be a resource for other people you care about. You're not asking, you're promoting. And then the to see, that's the qualifier. Never too busy to see if I can be a resource. So for experienced advisors, your clients need to know that if they send somebody to you, it may not be a match. It may be a match, maybe it isn't. If that prospect is not the right client for you, then you're not the right advisor for them. And we don't want to create lose-lose situations. So that clarity, and then promoting and letting people know that you will take on people who fit. If not, you'll find another way to serve them and help them. That way you don't get in trouble or burn a bridge for your referral source. So a few strategies and a few tactics. I hope that helps.
Super helpful, Bill, and I appreciate your precise wording and framing of the sentences. That type of tactical, tips is what we're after here, because that makes it really useful, tangible for our audience. Sam, bring us home with your broader marketing and digital perspective. I'm sure that many of the themes that the previous three panelists share live in analog and digital worlds and manifestations. What are your thoughts?
Sorry, just realized I was muted. So a lot of times when somebody, comes to work with me, they'll say, I'm getting, a decent number of referrals, or I'm getting a good amount of traffic to my website, but I'm just not getting a lot of conversions. And so when we dive down and we look at maybe what's happening, one of the biggest mistakes I often see is the way that people talk about their firm as well as write about it in their marketing materials. And so when I go and look at any of the homepage of your website, one of the things that the highest converting firms do, and that they all have in common, is that they structure the homepage of that website, what you first see, when you land on the page, where it easily communicates in 5 seconds or less who you are, what you do, and who you do it for. So you hear a lot of times people talk about having a niche. And one of the reasons this is so important is it allows prospects to self-qualify, right? It allows them to determine whether or not they're a good fit for you. Now, you might not yet have determined that yourself, but you want people to be excited to work with you and to feel like, yes, this person helps people just like me. So being really explicit about that right on your homepage is one of the things we have found in all of our research, examining thousands and thousands of advisory firm sites, that the highest converting sites have in common. And they also talk less about our firm has been in business for 35 years, or our team does this and we do that. And instead it's all you focused, right? So here are the problems that you have, and here is the solutions we provide to those problems. So changing the language, instead of always talking about yourself first and instead making it you focused. Any of you can go back and look at your website right now. Are all the pages of your website our team, our process, our history? How do you change that to be focused on them and the clients that you serve? That is a huge difference, and it's so subconscious. A lot of us, when we're out there looking for providers, we don't realize how much different we feel about somebody's marketing when they have that type of wording, it really helps us feel like, yes, this person gets me. And you can do this through case studies. Case studies is a really great way to do it. So, you say John and Linda are a couple that live here. Here's what some of the issues that they faced. Here's how we help them. And obviously you need to check with compliance if you're allowed to use case studies, but I've seen that work really, really well with some of the firms that we work with. If you are able to use testimonials or reviews, that's another great thing. You can take those testimonials and reviews and add them to your website. One of the things I found with the compliance folks we work with is that if you are pulling them from Google or Yelp, have a little box that says, read all of the reviews on Google. And that, just gets you even more in compliance good graces because you're making it so that they can read all of those reviews publicly. But having those keywords, being very you focused is such a huge mind shift for a lot of folks because we feel like we need to qualify why we are the expert. How many years of experience do we have? What are our credentials? Well, really people just want to know, can you help me solve the problem that I'm faced with right now?
Excellent. And I think we've come full circle in this round. That's pretty much what Randy started with in his opening verbal statement. You discussed the digital manifestation of that client-centric mindset. Powerful concepts, both in the analog and digital realm. Folks, as we go along, thanks to those who already submitted questions in the Q&A box, please keep that up. We'll shift into Q&A mode shortly. One of the questions that came in is actually a nice lead into our third and last formal round of conversation, and that is the role of technology. Sam, you alluded to it throughout your comments already. We picked it up from the advisors as well. We increasingly live in a hybrid world where we have analog and digital manifestations and work streams and exposures going on. So please, same order of comments, what are your thoughts on how technology is impacting the domain of new client acquisition? What are the opportunities? What are the challenges you see on that front?
Yeah, thanks. I think it's an evolving space. And, if you look back 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, and how you were trying to position yourself in the space, it's different now than it was even just 5 years ago. So I think that technological change will continue. I'm guilty of listening to a lot of advisor podcasts myself. That's one thing that I think I might go to do sometime, but it's a lot of time. And so there's always the balance of how do you want to spend your time? Are you trying to attract an audience, or are you trying to specifically laser focus in on this particular prospect or that one? So that's a little bit of it. I think also to the extent that you are nimble and able to embrace technology, that is always helpful. But I think at the end of the day, for me at least, I've had more success trying to develop relationships that you might foster digitally, but then take it offline. So this whole concept, and it's Sam, you may have even had this. I might be taking something from one of your playbooks here, but I do remember sitting in on a couple of different webinars talking about how, hey, you connect with somebody through LinkedIn or possibly through Facebook and you meet online, but then you take it offline and start a dialogue separately, independent of your social media feed. And ultimately that starts to foster the relationship and the trust building, which leads to opportunities. So I think it's going to continue to evolve and be more of our day-to-day, especially with the advent of AI. But we'll see how that all comes together. I think it's just important to be flexible and nimble and be able to use it and be educated with it to attract more names and make sure you're getting out there.
Got it. Adriana, does that resonate? Anything to add from your perspective?
Yeah, I would just say that, I think that the impact of technology and sort of the advent of robo-advisors or the rise of fintech has really just sort of raised the bar on what's expected of an advisor or what's required to win new business. And, truly it's going to come down to, am I going to add value above and beyond that of a AI robot, right? And a lot of that comes down to relationship, trust, like Randy was saying, a lot of which can happen digitally, right? Like Zoom is really just shrinking the world, and you can create relationships, anywhere across the country. But, nothing can really replace the in-person trust building. And really, really important to stay relevant with your clients and provide just really next level smart advice that can't necessarily be given by a computer.
Thank you for sharing that. What I hear from both of our advisor colleagues is that it's not one or the other. It's not analog or digital. It's the combination, the thoughtful integration of the two. And I'm sure, Sam, you see this all the time. Clients toggle back and forth between the realms. Thus, that seamless integration becomes increasingly important. Bill and Sam, take us home on that front, and let me weave an audience question into potentially your answers. We have a listener wondering if and how AI specifically is beginning to, manifest itself in financial advising and new prospect generation.
Yes. So first of all, on the positive side, as Adriana said, the geographic reach of practices has expanded for a lot of people. That's definitely a plus. Makes some meetings more efficient. With my own advisor, I see him 4 times a year. Now I used to go to his office not far. It was easy to do, but I do 2 via Zoom and 2 where I drive. And so there's an efficiency there. The challenge, of course, is what drives referability to get you unsolicited referrals is the relationship you build. And so it takes a little longer sometimes if it's totally Zoom. I do want to encourage people to do your best. Yeah, Zoom works. If you have to do it, that's fine. But when you can break bread with your clients, there's just nothing better than doing that. Here's the neat thing is that as you get to know your clients better, as you really get curious and ask good questions and listen and meet them in social settings and go to their house or their place of business and see them in different places, you learn more about them. And that makes you a better advisor. The more context you have about your clients, the better you are at what you do and the more ways you can help them. It also builds that personal connection, which is also very important. Plus, a side benefit is sometimes you build a bit of an inventory of other people that they know that you might be able to get introduced to. So that's one thing. I just want to encourage people to not hide behind the technology because there is a tendency to do that. I don't know if it was Randy, I can't remember, said take the conversation off of LinkedIn. Yes, if you meet them on LinkedIn, wonderful. And take it off of that for most people, because most people don't keep LinkedIn open all the time. They're not getting to the messages right away. There's all this delay. Get into email, get into other ways of taking it off. So it's facilitated certain things, but then it's also, we have to guard against making things too digital. And a word that I heard that I was going to use once as a title of my speech, I never did do it, but we'll call it tradigital, right? Traditional people, human, get together, digital. What's the tradigital solution to whatever we're trying to accomplish?
Excellent. Sam, your company in particular, you as a person are at the forefront of a lot of these themes and topics. Please fire away.
Yeah. So, a lot of, what you want to think about in terms of communication strategies and where people are spending their time really does depend on your target audience and where they spend their time. So I've, counseled some firms where they're trying to target young families who are in the accumulation stage of wealth, and the strategies and the tactics they're going to use are going to be very different than those who are already targeting people who are already retired. There's just, where the attention goes, it's very, very different. I saw a chart the other day and it was showing how many people have listened to a podcast, at least one podcast, and it was breaking it down by age versus how many people have ever watched live TV with commercials. And you look at the youngest generations and it's crazy how many young people have never even really watched live TV before, right? So there's just a whole shift in the way that people consume information, and it definitely trickles up generationally. But there are some things that pretty much transcend all generations. Some of those include things like email. Email is still by far people's preferred way to get information from their advisor that they work with. They, more than any other way, they want to hear from you via email. So having a weekly email that you send to clients, establishing that communication. I always say nobody fires their advisor for over communicating, but they sure as heck might fire you if they haven't heard from you in a really long time and they can't make sense of what's happening, right now with banking or the economy or the markets. So establishing that communication, and again, sharing things that help you be the person that helps them make sense of the noise, because we all have access to CNBC and what people are sharing on any of these social platforms about what's happening in the news. You want to be that voice of reason. So if you can put that in a really well-worded email communication that they can forward on to their friends or colleagues, that is really, really powerful. But in terms of what kind of content people want, our attention spans are getting shorter. So making really easy to digest, what I call quick hitting content, is really your sweet spot. So if you're somebody who likes to write a full-blown article, taking it and turning it into maybe 5 separate takeaways that are a 1-minute video each, or a multi-thread Twitter thread, depending on where your audience is, or 1 LinkedIn post. Those are going to be more powerful because we all have shorter attention spans and, prefer this digestible information. The question about AI, I don't think or see many people using, Chat GPT to solve how to create a financial plan, at least not anytime soon. However, from a content marketing perspective, there's so many great opportunities for how you can use it. Just in terms of, you read an article and you want to share it on social media and you're not really sure what to say about when you post it, you could take that article, put it into AI and say, what are the 5 main takeaways from this article? It will help you summarize them. And then you can add your spin, your voice on why the article is important, but it's helped you kind of get the main points out. So I definitely think AI is going to be involved and embedded in so much more, and it already is, in what we all do and how we live. But I don't see, just the same way people used to think, well, our robo-advisor is going to replace advisors, and then we found that not to be true. I think the same thing holds true here.
Agree, Samantha, and a shout out to the journalist Justin Mack, who in February published a great piece on the application of ChatGPT in wealth management. Check it out at financialplanning.com, a very worthwhile, informative read. We have a few more audience questions coming in right now and a few questions from students that were placed prior, which I want to use to wrap up this call. Sam, I'm staying with you here. We have an audience member wondering the PPP example you shared as something where you can add value and encourage your clients at the same time to share it with their ecosystem was a very powerful one. Are there similar ones going on right now that come to your mind that can be perhaps approached in the same way? So
a bunch of research has come out recently that the number one thing that, especially a lot of advisors want wealthier clients are looking for guidance on all the time, is someone who can help them make sense of taxes. So, a lot of people still have their CPA and then they have their advisor, and there's not as always as much communication between the two. I just did a great webinar with a company called Holistaplan, and they allow an advisor to take somebody's tax return and upload it, and it will give you some talking points in a very compliant way. Stay away from the word guidance and talk more about tax planning. But anything you can do, if you're working with people that have a certain amount of wealth and you can have some takeaway for them related to tax, I think that's always a good topic. Right now, let's say you were working with young families, a lot of people who have or have kids who are younger, thinking about buying their first home. Interest rates, everybody's watching interest rates. When are they going to go down? When's going to be a good time to buy a first home? If you know a lot of people who are on the fence about buying a home, an article or some sort of guide about interest rates and what might happen. Of course, you can't predict what's going to happen. We don't know for sure, but just talking about it and having the conversation can be a popular topic. So what's going to be a home run really will depend. I know everybody hates to hear this, on who your audience is, but thinking about what questions do they have and what are they most interested in is going to be your best bet for a home run piece.
Excellent, thank you. There's another audience question on the list of books, the recommendations from earlier on. We'll put those in the show notes, or you can listen to the recording to pick up those names. Let me end with 2 student questions. One is an open mic, only input if you feel you can. Interesting question came up. Are there companies coming to your mind that approach new client acquisition in really innovative, powerful, inspiring ways, be it from within our industry or beyond, that they may check out for inspiration? Do any, best-in-class companies come to your mind? Who is doing this really well? Bill.
I want to mention an advisor by the name of Jeffrey Chaddock in Ohio. I think he's Dayton. I interviewed him for my podcast. And while this is not new, it's underutilized. And that is helping, it's the side of philanthropy. And what I mean by that is he works with philanthropists and he helps well-to-do clients get involved in philanthropy. It's important to him. And so he's made it, he used to do 403B, used to work with teachers, used to work with, middle-class folks, which is great. Everybody needs help. Nothing wrong with that. He now has over 4.5 billion under management because he's working with philanthropists and people, and they have common interests. And so it's, if you want to go where the money is, that's one place to do it. I just wanted to bring that up to give the bug in the ear for certain people.
Interesting. Others?
Another interesting thing that I've really been paying a lot of attention to, we've all heard about the great wealth transfer for a long time. Fidelity just did a report that showed that for the average advisory firm, 57% of the existing client assets are expected to pass to the next generation by 2045. Yet advisors have only reached out to 13% of clients' children. And then they also found that households where they do engage the next generation, those firms have 160% of the revenues and 270% of the profits of those without family engagement of the next gen. So there's some firms I've worked with that are trying out different things to engage this group. And one of the firms is trying is they offer to meet with the children of their clients until they're 26 for free. Now, everybody has different ways they do it to make sure that the younger people are engaged, that they're not just taking advantage or it's being pushed on them. But I like that because, we all kind of have 26 as that age or window in our minds where you kicked off your parents' insurance. So it kind of goes nicely with that. And the families love it because it is so helpful. Nobody wants to learn about, well, I shouldn't say nobody. A lot of young people don't want to learn about certain life skills from their parents, but they'll listen to a credible expert who knows what they're talking about. And so the firms that I'm working with are engaging this younger generation earlier, but also, again, creating a referral client experience, a moment that makes them even more referable when they're able to go talk to their friends and family members and say, my kid moved out of college and they moved back home, but I'm having my financial advisor meet with them about X, Y, and Z. So I think that is a really interesting and underutilized strategy.
Thanks for sharing. Bill, over to you.
Piggyback on that, and a way to approach this is think of it this way. Always think in terms of what's best for your clients. So how can you be a really good, thorough financial planner if you don't know the answer to these 2 questions? Who in your life are impacted by the financial decisions you make? Okay, most advisors ask that, right? There's beneficiaries of life insurance, et cetera. But how about this? Who in your life are making or could make financial decisions that impact you? And so that goes to parents, it goes to children sometimes, it goes to siblings, it goes to friends that may have a special needs child that they're helping with. There's all kinds of interwoven relationships there that, number one, allow you to serve your clients better, and then you will start to capture that next generation, which really is important. I've had advisors tell me, oh, the kids don't care about me. They don't want to work with me. Well, maybe the attitude he has around that isn't helping, but the truth is a lot of them will. And you should at least know those people and have some form of relationship there. And it's what's right for the client. And I've seen so many advisors just like Samantha was talking about statistics in terms of capturing the assets and capturing the household over generations and the longevity of your business. I mean, a lot of your clients are getting older. I've had a lot of folks come to me for coaching because they have to get younger with their clients. Well, there's a way to do it. But if you do it from a perspective of what's best for the client, not just what you're looking for, then you'll always do the right thing and you're going to get what you want anyway.
I agree, Bill. That topic of intergenerational wealth transfer and connectivity is a big one for our industry. The statistics that Sam, shared are very sobering. On the one hand, reframing them into an opportunity for advisors to do the right thing can be a powerful thing that everybody benefits from. In closing, one more speed round. A student asked a question. Look, we heard a lot about what to do, the positive do's, great tangible tips. Thank you for all of those. If there's one thing folks are not supposed to do, what would be the one thing on the don't list? What are commonly observed practices that you are, bearish on, not bullish?
Yeah, I would say, 30, 35, maybe 40 years ago, it was very commonplace for advisors of various backgrounds to come in, meet with the client, sit down, and at the end of the conversation, you would start with, well, who else do you know? And they can, can I have their phone number? And I would say that is a don't anymore. I mean, you can't just come in and expect for somebody who you've spent this time and energy building and gaining their trust, and then completely dismantle it right in front of them by saying, well, you're now less important to me. Who else do you know? Who else can you, what can you do for me versus what can I do for you?
Got it, and ties beautifully to Bill's and Sam's comments around introductions at the right point in time for the right reasons. Adriana, any do's from your perspective?
I've seen advisors look at their phones and use their phones during client meetings and prospect meetings. And I just cringe inside when I see that. I can't tell you how disrespectful it feels. And I just, gosh, put your phone away, turn it off, at least for, the meeting. Geez, you can wait.
The basics of undivided attention. Yes. Bill, Sam, take us home.
Wow. I would say, first of all, for Randy, yeah, don't make anything when you talk about referrals about you. It's about bringing your value to others. It's the financial leadership you provide in people's lives, helping them make decisions that are in their best interest. It's got to be all about that. Whenever you ask, whenever you make it happen, always make it about the value that you're bringing to other people. If people like you, they know it's going to help you. You don't have to use the I get paid in 2 ways and all the old stuff that people used to get taught. You make it about other people. So yeah, just always do what's right for the client. Always, 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 no matter what. Don't put anything in place that isn't perfect for them. And then make the referability all about bringing the value to others.
And I'll go real fast. I would say don't gate all of your best information. So many people, so you have to put your name, email, and phone number in to download a guide or get a blog post or watch a video. Nobody does it anymore. How many articles do you read that are gated from publication, right? You just leave, you don't pay. So instead, give away your best information for free for the most part. And for the few really, really great things you have, just ask for name and email. Because if somebody wanted to talk to you on the phone, they would have given you, they would have booked a time on your calendar or contacted you anyways. And then you can build that relationship over email over time. And then, hopefully get the email later.
Guys, we could go on and on, such a meaty and important topic. On behalf of our student, faculty, and all the audience, thank you, Randy, Adriana, Bill, and Sam, for your invaluable perspectives and your tangible, practical tips. View yourselves as friend of Columbia University from now on. Swing by the campus if and when you're next in New York City. With that, thanks to everybody. Signing off. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.